What's going on, everybody? It is good to see you again. I do feel like that I am also in my happy place. Very happy to be here with you all, going over these charts, going over our strategy together. This is our first training session of 2021. Tom, by the way, has been putting a lot of work in over these past few weeks. He's been going over all past training sessions. He has put up an Excel spreadsheet for me with multiple tabs covering each and every video, breaking it down into clips, organizing them so that I could go ahead and organize them somewhere on the website so that you could look at everything ranging from whether, entries, managing a trade, stop loss, position size, everything. Enormously grateful to Tom and his time. I think that, and I know he's enjoying doing it, but nevertheless, I am extraordinarily grateful to Tom for doing that and for his time. I think it's a great resource for each and every one of us. So anyway, Tom did mention one thing that I've also taken away from that is he feels like it will be great for every training session to start with some type of instruction that's then followed up with the question and answer session later on. I like the style of that. That's coming more from, I guess, traditional education, but it's something that definitely I want to work into this for sure and will. That's not starting this session over here. This session is going to be completely open to focusing in on your questions, what questions you have, anything regarding the course material or anything regarding trading in general. We're just going to do a full Ask Me Anything. I came back, traveled back on Monday. It took me a couple of days to get really situated back in. Here I am right now. That's how we're going to let this unfold. The session's open to each and every one of you. Anyone has any questions, we'll go over them in order, the order they're asked. By the way, brother, thanks for going ahead and sharing with me the way that to flag and unflag. I'll try to figure that out later. I definitely appreciate being as most efficient as possible and avoiding unnecessary clicks as well. So please check out the ratio to look into Bitcoin. This does not give a false signal of a cycle high on unique advantage over on-chain indicators. I will look into that. That's awesome. I'm going to go ahead and just take a screenshot of this right now. By the way, look into Bitcoin is a great resource. I enjoy that very much. You guys have heard me talk about them often. If you go over here to let me see where it is, the R hodl. Okay, I will do this on my own time because I'm not aware of it, and it'll take me some time to figure out. You're saying it didn't give a false signal in 2013. I'll look into that. What I find interesting though, as we looked at this morning, and by the way, I hope you all appreciated that session this morning with that, let's say that updated look at Bitcoin of where I'm at right now and what's transpiring and how I am like adapting to the market rather than trying to get the market to adapt to my opinion. That cycle pie exit, I think that is definitely something to pay attention to if that does occur. Guys, what's going on? It was for me. I hope it was for you. No, I definitely thoroughly enjoyed that. I don't know if anyone's got a chance to look at Raoul Pal's thread yesterday that he put out on Ethereum. Interesting stuff. There's a lot that I found interesting. There's a lot that I don't agree with, but that doesn't really matter. We'll see what happens in due time. But, and obviously that I'm a big proponent because it could be, and he goes on in the thread to mention, it doesn't matter if it's Ethereum or if you're looking at Chainlink or any other altcoin. But, I'm a big proponent of it's Bitcoin's 4-year cycle. And within that Bitcoin's 4-year cycle, a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's why we get alt season, as well as we talked about what's happening psychologically as more and more people find out about Bitcoin. And then they are attracted to speculative alts, thinking that they can make more money on them. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Giles, as well. Thank you, Luis. It was important for me. And anyway, I never know how it's going to be received by you. Look what's happening right now on the indexes over here. You have a strong dollar today, right? That to me is not signal. This is noise. Nevertheless, you have the dollar bid today. And with that strong dollar, even the indexes are rising. Look at that. And S&P over here is just gushing now to new all-time highs. You can see over here, right? Just this little bit of a trend line. We're breaking above that now. It looks like we're breaking above that now. Nice to see over here. What else? So, Tom, this is going to set us off over here, right? So, Igor, no one should be. So, we'll speak about that. We'll start with that first. So, regarding prop trading, there's nothing wrong. Is everything good about taking advantage of additional leverage offered to you? There's everything good about that. You should do that, but you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't be, I should say, interested in doing that until you're ready to do that. The reason I say that is because that could actually get in the way. That could get of you actually achieving the goals you need to meet. Because to qualify for these prop trading services, you need what, like a 10% gain in a month? To do that, you're taking on additional leverage. You're taking on additional trades, more trades than you should be taking. And you're doing it probably on a lower time preference, right? So if you're trying to just to qualify for a prop trading account before you're actually warrant or have the skill set to do that, you actually will be prohibiting your growth to getting to the place you need to be, because to do that, you kind of need to break a lot of rules, right? You're much better off simply focusing in on working the program over here. You're much better off learning how to go ahead and put up, consistent returns, risking 0.5%, averaging over the course of the year 1%, and then moving yourself up after 3 months, start risking 1% per trade and doing that. That in the long run, because a lot of people have a very high time preference, meaning that they're like interested on the short term rather than the bigger picture. And actually, in investing and in trading, you want to be much more low time preference. You really want to be focused on making sure that you develop the skill and do it the right way. So Tom is saying, I'm struggling learning how to draw trend lines and channels, especially on Forex pairs. Of course, let's just pull up a random pair. I want to pull up a pair that I don't really look at or know of. Or maybe I could just pull up a different feed that I normally do. Let's just try, I don't even know what to pull up. New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar. For sure, I don't look at that. All right. So if you're looking at drawing trend lines, right, how would you do that? All right. What are your eyes attracted to when I look at this over here on this chart? Like the first thing that my eyes are attracted to is the slope of this over here, this resistance over here, right? So I go ahead and I could draw in a trend line. How do you draw the trend lines in themselves, right? You question do you follow the wicks or do you follow the bodies? Generally, what you're looking for is the angle, right? So however the angle lines up. So it's easier for me almost to start at the top over here. I always start at the bottom left and work my way up. But for helping you get going, I'm going to start over here and work my way down to follow that angle. And the reason I did that is because I could see over here that it wasn't the top of the wicks, right? Because I started here and connected the next peak and then connected this peak and this peak. It showed me it was the body over here and not these wicks over here. Now, the way that I do my TA, which is a lot different than anywhere else that you see, is I would then clone this and I would put that on those two top wicks over here, right? Knowing that if we broke through over the top one, that will probably come into this next bit of resistance above it. So that's one way to go about learning and starting to draw trend lines. What else can we look at? It's exploring. So is there a trend line over here coming from this bottom? Nope, right? You could see that. Oh, that's interesting, right? Isn't that interesting? That these two lines, right? And by the way, there are many people out there who say that you need 3 points before drawing a trend line. I don't, not at all for myself. It's only 2. It's 2 lines and you could draw a trend line. Okay. So a lot of people look for 3 or more touches, not myself, but look over here. I just connected these 2. I extended the line up. That was then the resistance. Not only that, let me just go ahead and copy that really quick. Let me go back and put this over here. I don't know why my trend line is not appearing. Let me try to do this then. I don't know what just happened. Anyway, I digress. I kind of get carried away and have a little fun with myself. But just start drawing in trend lines. and connecting points and see where they lead you. But more importantly, Tom, is focus in on horizontal support and resistance. Remember, the way that I describe our trading is trading price off of the market structure of support and resistance. That means horizontal support and resistance. That's primary with the help of trend lines and chart patterns. So I want you, because you'll be conquering the markets, focusing on horizontal support and resistance, and then the trend lines, explore, draw. That's how you become more familiar with anything. Getting the little kids on the bicycle for the first time, it's until they put a little bit more time in and get comfortable that it becomes much more familiar to them. All right. So Jordan, your updated look at strategy number 3 for Bitcoin. Are you applying it at all? I wish I would have included that this morning in this morning's live stream. The only way that the only way that I will be looking to include strategy number 3 at all. And do note that I'm changing strategy number 2 now. All right. So let me just really talk about that really quick. If we start resembling this type of a peak over here, right? If we start resembling this type of a peak, if we exit on a pi cycle indicator, right? If we go absolutely vertical, and we're not going vertical yet, right? At that point, I would be using strategy number 3 to sell. So how about that? That's it. That's black and white. The only way that I'll be looking to use strategy number 3 is if we enter a period like this and we get like something like probably I might, if we came into this, hold on one second. If we came into this level over here, which is like 160,000, way sooner than the summer, way sooner than expected, and we came into the trend line, that might be an exit for me. And then looking to go ahead and reestablish a position, and what that is and what type of exit it is and what portion of my position and everything like that. If and when it happens, I will walk you through it 100% and let you know what I'm doing. But the only way that I'll be taking position off would be that if we resembled more of this. Okay. Now for strategy number 2, at this point right now, I am no longer looking to add. Well, I shouldn't say that. As we come into 53,000, if we're rejected there and have an orderly pullback, I would add on that pullback. If we break through 53,000, at that point, I will not be looking to add on any 30% pullback at all, simply because I think that we might have a much bigger than a 30% pullback. All right. So those are the 2 important things. Great question, Vasil. Very important. The 5%ers is a prop firm that requires 6% and 6 months to qualify. Oh my goodness. Luis, I can't get the 5%ers. Is actually the name of it? That's actually something that everyone should be able to qualify for. That's beautiful. The 4% drawdown should not be a problem. The 4% drawdown should not be a problem at all. Risking a 0.5%. From what I've seen, that's not a problem for many. That's a great heads up over there. I would like to get that, take a look into that and get that out to everyone else. Let me screenshot that as well. That's something that should really fit conquering the market traders very well. Yeah, Jay Bird, glad you're over here. Yeah, we could look at the US dollar, Japanese yen really quick. And the US dollar, Japanese yen, you could see it's coming into this resistance right over here. We looked at it this morning, and we noted that we were coming into this pretty nice level of resistance. Now, the one above it is even stronger, but this one has the confluence of this trend line over here, right? So, by the way, because I just said to you before, you could see this trend line, by the way, right? You could see why I have it. It's a little bit loose, right? Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Let me go like this. It's tough. It's tough, right? But I think that, all right, so anyway, what I wanted to do was clone this trend line, put it over here to the outside peak. That one, right? Because I'm using 1 touch over here, 2 touches over there. All right. So we're coming into this trend line over here, though, this horizontal resistance. This is our first resistance over here. It also has this confluence of this trend line resistance now. If you were to hold over here and get a resumption down, I think that's a really strong and good looking entry. Now, the possibility remains that we could break up and test this resistance over here at 104. That's also a place and a stronger resistance that you want to be looking to sell resistance. This is a downtrend any way that you look at it. We're currently in a downtrend right now. You're looking to sell resistance in a downtrend. Here are your levels. You have one over here at 103.94, the next one above it at 104.37, even 105.21. If we were to go ahead that high, that would be a strong resistance to be looked to sell into. So that's the game plan over there. Are you looking to go ahead and look for a bottom over here? I don't think so at all. There's no sign of any type of trend reversal. We could even go back and peek at the dollar. We talked about this very strongly also. This is ultra bearish, what's taking place over here, and we're just bouncing right now. There's no indication that we're looking for any type of reversal. From my opinion, we would need to get back above this trend line into this channel over here, this trend line over here, to even begin thinking about a reversal. That might be even above this 92.14 resistance that we got over there. That on the Japanese yen, US dollar, would also be looking, what would that be looking about? If I was looking for a reversal on the US dollar Japanese yen, at what place would I start saying, all right, well, I'm trading off of this long-term uptrend, right? When do I believe we're resuming back? So this looks like actually that is a nice trend line over there, and you could take a shot at it to the upside. What would the trigger be? For me, I think it would be pretty high, above this 105.21. I'm not looking for any type of US dollar strength, especially at this moment. So that's where I'm at on the US dollar Japanese yen. So when a stock is going crazy like Tesla, how do you formulate an exit plan? So I would have exit Tesla as we came into, as it was added to the S&P 500, right? That's Netflix. Sorry about that. So, and with the one caveat, because of what's going on with the central banks and QE, you could definitely break the models now, right? Why is that resistance up there at 860? It doesn't make any sense to me. Let me remove that. I don't know why that's there. How do you formulate an exit plan on Tesla? So I know a lot of people that hold Tesla stock, and they kind of just love Tesla stock and don't really want to give it up. I think it's a huge anomaly. I can't even say the word. I think, and I looked at Tesla, and I've said this all year long, as an asymmetric bet, something that, if it's going to work out, 10, 20 years from now, could be a juggernaut, whether or not that's going to happen. It could also go, I don't know, there's a lot of wishy-washy stuff going on in Tesla as well. It seems right now, because of all the money they raised, because of the stock price, that they are set for a while, right? They have taken and built up their coffers, and they have a lot to work off of. And I'm rooting for their overall success, no question about it. But that to me is more of an asymmetric bet. That's something that, do you want to buy the kids and see what happens 10 to 20 years from now? It's kind of like Bitcoin, taking profit is not really the way to go right now. However, and I would have took profit as it was added to the S&P 500. But if we get any type of sell signal on the equity markets, if we start seeing them break down, that would be, Tesla will go down with the equity markets. That would be the time to get neutral on Tesla and wait for a time to get back in. This is a really good way to approach it. And you could also, Tom, by the way, ask me for a screenshot of any pair at any time. You could do it in the Conquering the Markets Telegram group. Just tag me and ask for, if you want to see my trend lines, or if you want to add your trend lines and then get my thoughts on that, for sure. So would I buy after an exit on a 30% pullback? No. So I'm not, would I buy after a 30% pullback? So if we go vertical, Vassal, just to build off what we last said, and we get maybe a pie signal exit, or an exit into the 160,000 or 243,000 trend line over here, at that point, I would be looking for a much bigger than a 30% drawdown. What that would be like, I don't know, but I would be leaning and watching as price reacted off of the trend lines below. And if price were to hold, that would be a place that I would look to position back in. That's how do you say, very it's impossible to say right now. We need to see what is happening at the moment. I cannot like be lock myself into those type of decisions way in advance right now. I have to see what's going on in that moment. What was shared with today though is what I adapted to right now. No, the pi cycle doesn't give a re-entry signal. Right now, with broad strokes, the best entry signal that the entry signal that I would be looking for would not be like a given drawdown. It would be more along the lines of a move back in to the trend lines below it, and if that support held and we resumed off of it, that's where I would take my re-entry with a stop in place. Because if that failed and we went down lower, I'd be looking to reestablish myself lower. But those drawdowns, if we go vertical like that and we have more of a two wave, if we have a one wave and then a two wave bull market, more, instead of a one wave, those drawdowns will be greater than 30%. So very important, but a little ahead of ourselves. Can you briefly explain? Yeah. Could you briefly explain when you use the bodies of the candles versus wicks? Also, do you use different time frames to get a broader view, like the daily, 3-day, or weekly? So listen, I draw my trend lines on the 8-hour, not only trend lines, I draw my support, my resistance on the 8-hour time frame. Only because my eyes have been trained to do that. I think it's much easier doing it on the daily time frame because it's much clearer. There are many people who do it off the weekly as well first, and it's going to be much easier and much clearer, right? Remember this big line that we've been looking at over here right now, that heavy resistance? Look on the weekly time frame how much easier it is to see it, right? So if you're struggling and only struggling because that's only like it's not a bad thing, it's only a lack of experience, I definitely use the daily time frame, even use the 3-day or the weekly if it's easier for you to draw in the important resistance, support and resistance lines. As far as using the wicks and the bodies, what do I use? So let me pull up a random pair. Let's do the New Zealand dollar. I guess we'll go back to the New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar over here, right? I want to draw in horizontal support and resistance, right? So let me start on the daily time frame, right? So if I was looking at this chart and I didn't have any lines drawn in, the first thing I'm looking for is a point where I see two touches. Like, do you see that resistance right there? Follow my mouse. That was the other one. That's the first area that I would start drawing a line in. So I go ahead and enter that in. Now that had nothing to do with using the wicks or the bodies. That's why that was the whole point of that. That had nothing to do with using the wicks or the bodies at all. That was where the 2 points met. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. Now let me go ahead and add another one, right? Let me step back. This is annoying. Let me remove that. So where's the next level? By the way, instead of putting a line, or I just use my eyes visually, you have the mouse, and the mouse has that horizontal line, and it makes it really easy pointing out lines. Do you see over here where we made support, and then that was resistance, and that was resistance? So that's also another place that you want to add a horizontal line. I'm not looking at the wicks. I'm not looking at the bodies. I'm looking where the market is making the touches, because you could see that was neither body or wicks. That's just a wick. And so I'm looking at the price point. I'm not looking at the wicks or the bodies. Let's do one more over here. Do you see this area? That's where I was drawn to. Now I'm using the this horizontal level of the mouse crosshairs, which makes it easier. So I could just move it up and down until I find out the level. So do you see over here two things? I would probably first put mine over here, off the top of this price over here. And then you could see over here, we wicked into it over there. So that's a level that I would have originally have placed it. But then and let me place it there first to show you. So I would place it here. And then do you see when the market came down over here, it didn't come into it all the way, that we wicked down almost into it, and then the bodies were up over here. Now follow my mouse to the left. Do you see the support over there in the past? So what that said to me, like I did the right thing, placing my level down here first, right? I would do it again. But then when the market came over here, although it wicked down almost into it, the bodies were up here and I look to the left and I see that support, I would know that that's where the market's paying attention to. And I would either readjust the one line over here, or I would add another one. And that's not like, again, you just want to pay attention to what the market's paying attention to in the moment. You don't really need to like, well, I had it here and we came almost into it, so it was right. It's not about being right or wrong. It's just focusing on what the market's focusing in on. Phew, Louis. Struggling a bit with a retest resumption. Not sure it is always on the same time frame. Okay, this is great. All right, let me go ahead and highlight the question though for everyone. You're not sure if it's always on the same time frame or when precisely to take it, when it resumes off the trend line or when it has a higher high than the previous candle. This is actually very black and white, so it's going to be very easy. When you're looking for that retest and resumption, it's always on the same time frame. It's always, by the way, just let me continue here as we were marking up the New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar. Now, this was where we started from. But over here, do you see this last resistance? And then price came into it, retested it, and resumed off, right? So my question is, well, that's definitely a local bit of resistance that came support. Is that a bigger line, right? So I could go back to the daily time frame right now, zoom out a little bit, and then put my mouse, right there, put my mouse over. I say, not really, right? That's just local support. There's no other confluence back here showing that line is a major line. So that was just local resistance being confirmed into support, right? So what about resistance above me though? Really quick. I could see over here, this is in play. This is in play. Now follow my mouse over to the right over here in this area. So that's right over there. That's a big level, right? And then go back to the 8 hour. We're trading right into that right now. Right into it, right below it. I would go back and look how well I did because I see that we came up over here. That's what the market's showing me. So let me do that with you really quick, right? Hold on one second. I'll come back to your question. Definitely, Egal. This is the line over here. It's at 0.923. I'm looking back over here left, right? So that was a good line I put in. Why was it a good line? Like, do you see the touch over here, then over here? There's no question I would do that again. But now the market is like, well, no, this is where we were just rejected, right? So then I go back over here and I'm like, oh, that happened again over there as well. So I was wrong, and I'm going to move that up, right? And just make sure I understand where my resistance is. Okay? Does that make sense? It's reacting to the market. So struggling a bit with a retest resumption. So listen, this is very black and white. It's always done off the 8 hour time frame. You do not look down to go further to a 4 hour, a 1 hour. If we're trading above here soon, and then this is on the 8 hour time frame, and then we come in for the retest, you stay on the 8 hour time frame, right? If this holds, price doesn't trade below it, and then we come back up, the entry is on the 8 hour time frame during the London session as price makes the higher high than the previous price bar, not when that trigger bar closes, as price makes the higher high during the London session than the previous price bar. I'm currently having a hard time with timing my trade. I see a lot of setups, but usually the retest and resumption happen overnight during Asia market, and the following day I feel price ran away. Okay, good. This is great. That means that you are in the right place. You are recognizing the trade setups, right? You see what you're looking for. They're actually unfolding, but just not during the correct session. So you have to take that as a very positive thing, that you're seeing and you're looking for the right things. You're in the right places. The right timing is not there. I know with certainty that avoiding the Asian session is way more profitable. It's way more profitable. It's something you have to do. It's a low volume session with a lot of noise. And if you're getting signals that are working out right now, that just means to me that soon enough, they're not going to be working out. Okay. So listen, that's great. You know what you're looking for, and it's just not occurring at the right time right now. Keep doing exactly what you were doing, but like reframe it. Instead of feeling like you're missing out and that price is running away, right? Like just focus on the positive aspect here, that you know what you should be looking for. You're seeing these things transpire, but during the wrong session. I would not consider a trade on XRP. Now, I mentioned once in the Telegram chat, and I don't even know what the price was. We could go back and we could find the comment and find out the day and the time. And I said, well, maybe XRP, this is a place where we could, and I think we went way much lower from wherever I said that. I don't know where I said it. Why I say much lower? Because if I said it at 0.25 and then we went down to 0.17, can you imagine the timing? But I also said I wouldn't try to catch a falling knife. And there's also no way that I would buy XRP, right? It's gambling. That's gambling. And I have no interest in gambling. What I'm looking to do is actually like flip the tables upside down and become the casino. I'm looking just to take high probability trades where I have the edge and I know over time that I'm going to make out. I'm not looking for this like what now when I first started trading as a young kid, right? That's what I would look for, that type of stuff. And it's fun when it works out, right? And you can make a lot of money really quickly, but in the long run, that's everything you want to avoid and not what you want to look for. Let's see what happens there. All right. Week 12 into your program, 3 months. Today's the first time I've had any tone or cadence for a US dollar cross. Is there more to this or just US dollar wave coming up? So I want to pull up a US dollar pair. Instead of pulling up the US dollar, I'm going to pull up the Euro US dollar. Okay. And it's a good question. So it was, I'm trying to see. Yeah, it was over here. It was the first week of August where I then backed off US dollar pairs. This was a great time from June through June, all of June and all of July was a fantastic time for US dollar pairs and for Japanese yen pairs. They were expanding and moving very hard. Then we went into consolidation and I did not trade US dollar pairs for all of this. There was opportunity, right, as you came into that trend line once and twice, but I still avoided it through all of this because I don't like getting caught up in sideways markets. So I was personally and there were a couple of trades in here. I avoided them, right? And then when we broke out of this range over here, I never was able to get back into it and to find an entry into it, right? Trying, but I never could do it. I just feel like price is overextended. I haven't been able to line it up. I found Japanese yen pairs lately much easier to trade. And you're saying that you're seeing them come back alive right now. When I look at the US dollar Japanese yen, again, the euro US dollar. Right now, I still can't line up an entry. Like I need to wait for more of a pullback, whether it's into this trend line or into that area of local support now. For me, I can't get into it. I don't see it. On the Australian dollar, US dollar, it's the same thing. It's just once they broke out of the range, they're just kind of getting away. Haven't been able to line them up. Is the US dollar Japanese yen now? I mean, the US dollar Japanese yen to me, I'm programmed to sell into resistance. So I'm looking now at finally, and the US dollar Japanese yen for so long, I've been sidelined. So this is the first moment and the first pair where I'm like, all right, well, that's actionable. Maybe now that will lead to, you see it's even green lighted over here. Maybe that will lead to an entry, but I'm in a downtrend. I'm only selling resistance in that downtrend. The US dollar has just been out of play, but I try not to overthink it. It just is what it is. I've been finding a lot of success with the Japanese yen. So that's where I've been focused. What are the best trading times to trade? It's off the 8-hour time frame during the full London session. Just keep it very simple like that. It's on the 8-hour time frame during the London session. Now, when the New York session opens, depending on what broker you use you could get another candle open up during the London session. You have to readjust your orders, right, off of that candle. Yeah, we looked at that yesterday in yesterday's live stream. Will went ahead and shared that article. So when they said that that they're going to defend the 100 price level, right? That means that, yeah, again, I also feel, and that's just feeling, that's not something to trade off of. But I feel like, well, if they're going to defend the 100, that the market's going to be attracted to that like a magnet. We'll see. Hi, Jordan. First time here. I find it useful to see a walkthrough, how you break down trade, showing position info, lesson position side. Yeah. So listen, you have now available to you an enormous resource, the library of every single live session that we have done. Now, Tom is going the extra mile, the extra step here, going ahead and making it easier, breaking down those clips so that you could just like for example, how do you manage a trade? That's what you're asking, right? And if you wanted to see how that could be done, you could just go ahead and watch those videos. Hopefully soon, within the next couple of months, that's all in an organized library for you. But you should start going through. Each session is more or less about an hour. Whether or not you're watching 2 or 3 a week, you should be making sure to watch those training sessions in order, and you're going to get a full master class on all of that. Did you check the course section on position size and risk per trade? That section helps. Danny commenting obviously to the comment above. Do you have any thoughts on psychologically behavior training or obsessing what to watch out for as a new trader? Now, Kenneth, you've been with us for a while. I feel like a large part of what we do day in and day out is really, without ever calling it psychological, is really focused on the psychological behavior of trading, right? I think that is one of our main strengths, but there's no like outline to it, right? So when we talk about things like being in the habit of uptrends, of buying off support, and downtrends, selling off resistance, myself avoiding sideways markets, always looking to go ahead and push trades, to hold on to your winners and cut your losers shorts, patience of a predator, wait for that trade. Those are all psychological behaviors, right? Yeah, they're really relevant. So the question is, and by the way, it's not just in FX, it's in all markets. FX is one of the purest markets there is. And if you want to excel in any market, master FX, right? The more time you spend working on FX, you're just gonna have a better understanding of all markets. But there is no there is no point in time when these horizontal support and resistance become irrelevant, right? So, and by the way, multi-year breakouts tend to lead to powerful moves. Now, those generally come off of trend lines, right? Those come off of trend line. I mean, the Euro US dollar is the 2020 example. It wasn't the only one, because the US dollar, Canadian dollar had a huge one also, probably all dollar pairs. But just so you get the feel for what I'm talking about, the question is horizontal lines. And I'm saying to you, it's generally when you have these multi-year trend lines, this is a 12-year trend line break, that lead to big moves. And look at that move over here. This was the trend line break. We were all involved in this. This took, this was a 700 pip move in weeks, So multi-year trend line breaks is something I look for. How relevant to that? Because you'll see right over here, the 125 line is a multi-year, actually coming back to this area over here between 2003, 2006, right? And we're coming into that. I think we're coming into that this year. That's an enormous line, right? That's an enormous line. That's a multi-year line, and it's of uber importance, okay? If we break above that, we could see the euro appreciate much further than the dollar. that could also be a line in the sand. That could also be where the dollar is able to bottom out for the near term. If you look at that on the DXY, by the way, because we just looked at that, that's that line of hope. This line of hope over here at 88.40, that's 125 in the dollar index, right? And if we break below that, we could see a much bigger move on the dollar. So that also is a multi-year line. They're super important. They're super important. Yep, there are visual walkthroughs in the training sessions that you have access to right now, but you got to put the work in. They're there for you to watch. Start with the beginning ones. One of the first four, or actually many in the first four, are doing exactly that. Listen, what is provided here, I don't think that you could really find anywhere else. I know that people have purchased courses costing 15,000 Australian dollar. Midway through stopped and only worked on this, right? The information is basically giving away for free, but you have to put in also the effort yourself. Anything you need help with, I'm here for you. The community's here for you, but you have to also put in that time and effort. I probably shouldn't have removed that as I did that. Right? Let's keep that up there just to see what happens. All right. Close enough. All right. Thanks, guys. Oh my goodness. Bitcoin taking out 39 now. When opening a trade, right? When opening a trade off of a resumption, do you wait for the close of the previous candle or take it before? This is very black and white. You do not wait for the close of that trigger candle. You take the trade as it makes that higher high. Now, when buying, generally I use plus 1 pip plus the spread. And when selling, minus 1 pip. Okay. But it's during the candle as the price makes that previous candle's high or low. It's not when the candle closes. All coins are overextended. Do you think is right now good to enter Litecoin or Ethereum if they pull back? I think that, Ryan, I think it's fair to say there was a point in time, right? And if you go back and you look at it, old season, you could say begun. All right. It's pretty clear old season has begun. I think right now it's just the very beginning. I think we're going to see some massive, massive moves over these next several months. I think that the game plan is definitely buying off of support in the uptrends. Be aware if Bitcoin has a bigger pullback, those pullbacks could be way bigger on altcoins. For example, if you have a 20% pullback on Bitcoin, that could equate to a 40% pullback on Chainlink, right? Or Cardano. It could be a 30% pullback on Ethereum. So be aware, be patient. Yes, you're looking right now at this time to look to buy off of pullbacks into support. One other thing I want to add, it's completely irrelevant to what you just said, but it made me remember it. And the only reason I want to say it so that I'm reminded of it, I've made it clear that I personally will not sell Bitcoin during the bear market. I mean, I will exit Bitcoin, most likely. That could change also. I might say, you know what, I'm not exiting Bitcoin, not because I don't think that we're going to see a bear market and not because I don't think we're going to come down to here. But if capital gains are 40% for myself, you know what? Maybe that I could just wait it out and hold it and for whatever reason, right? But I wouldn't sell on margin Bitcoin versus the dollar in that bear market. But I will be considering absolutely looking to sell all coins across the board against Bitcoin because I know very clearly what happens to altcoins versus Bitcoin in that bear market. So I'm only mentioning that right now, only as a reminder to mention it again going forward in the future. All right. I do remember that in previous live sessions, we did a walkthrough on how to set up your risk. Right. That's Danny. That's not too far away. So, and again, as Tom's going through all that work, every single live session, not only will the clips be organized, but I will definitely and soon work on editing the descriptions for each, for what's in each video and where, and for the main title of the video to be descriptive. It wasn't too long ago, whether or not it was one of the latter weeks in November or beginning weeks in November. That's right, Danny. I think that session is marked. I think that session is marked with, let me look right now really quick. I think that session is marked with Alanda in it. Let me see. It's not. Yeah, so I could do that for you. I will do that very soon to help you, my brother. I'll find out which of those sessions have the walkthrough using position size on Alanda and make sure that you're able to get to that for sure. All right. What Bitcoin chart is this? This is Bitstamp. Is this the one we're looking at? This is Bitstamp right here. I'm not sure which chart was on when you said that though. How do you deal with regret? I'm glad you said this. Okay. So this is really good. And so I'm glad you said that. How do I deal with regret? Because this goes back to when we were talking about over here to Salah's question over here, saying that, look, I'm having trouble. I'm seeing setups and the retest and resumption is happening during Asia, right? So some people might have regret about that. And I'm trying to like twist your perspective into being like, wow, that's really good. You're in the right place at the right time. You should focus in on that. Okay. So that also is related to this. How do I deal with regret? Everything, multiple ways. Everything is a learning experience. Everything. If I did not make the mistakes I've made in the past, I would not be where I am today. I would not have achieved the things I have achieved without making those mistakes. Mistakes could be some of the greatest teachers. That's number one. Number two, the market's always going to be there and there's always opportunity, right? So you might feel that you did not fully position into Bitcoin back in November, but Bitcoin is $40,000. And I know that I said originally that Bitcoin under 30, 35,000 is cheap, but Bitcoin under 40,000 is cheap. It looks like Bitcoin under $50,000 is going to be cheap. And there's still plenty of time to take advantage of this current moment in time. Yes, anytime you enter Bitcoin, do expect mentally to have a 30% plus pullback at any time. I don't think we're going to see a bigger pullback than that at this point in the cycle. What I'm saying is if we climb up further, right? If we start, in the matter of a month or two, all of a sudden we're trading at $160,000, right? If we're trading, $100,000 within the next month, then I'll be saying, all right, we might see a bigger than a 30% pullback, but not right now. Not Bitcoin at 40,000. I think that we don't see a bigger pullback than 30% right now. So, and the other thing I do is every time I exit a trade, I do not look at that chart. I prevent myself from opening the door to having regret. Whatever decision I make, I am happy with that decision. I don't then go back and look. Now the same thing's going to happen. I might exit Bitcoin during this bull market phase, and Bitcoin can move up, another $50,000, and maybe within a few days. I cannot have regret. I have to be comfortable with what I did. If you have regret and then you go back and you're looking at it, it's going to cause you to enter a trade that you should not be entering in. All right. So it's also a bit of mental toughness, I would say. Could you talk about the exit strategy for Bitcoin? When I become a Bitcoin millionaire, I never had this much money before. Will you park all this cash, so to speak, for you with interest? Like right now, today, what we looked at Bitcoin during the live stream, in my opinion, was the single most important thing to look and discuss with Bitcoin right now. As we are getting towards the stages where it's time to exit, I assume, as you've seen in 2020, like the landscape has changes drastically and quickly. I'm not even trying to figure out what this fall is going to look like in the world. It's too far right now for me to be able to see what's going on. At the very least, I don't know. So what I'm going to be exiting in, if I'm going to be exiting, how I'm going to be exiting, all that stuff will be planned out when we get to that proper time. And it's not the proper time right now. The proper time right now is for me to be focusing on what is transpiring right now and making sure that I'm aware of what's happening and that I adapt accordingly instead of getting myself boxed in to certain decisions, right? So stay tuned for that. Yeah, it depends on where you live in the world. There's obviously different taxes. You should be able to really search Bitcoin taxes where you live and figure that out really quickly. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know what it's going to look like in the fall. Capital gains, for those who make over $1 million a year, could be drastically different this year, 2021, than they are today. Right now, they're not even a problem. I would exit without thinking about it, pay the tax, move on. If they're 40%, maybe I'm not going to sell my Bitcoin. Mario, I've told them, even I had family yesterday, buy Bitcoin, right? But they've been told so much that they told me, I'm like, listen, you know, Bitcoin's come pretty hard, pretty fast. They're like, listen, all right, I know. I expect, Bitcoin could go down from here at least 30%. And if it does, I'll buy more. Perfect. Go ahead. Listen, Bitcoin is still early in the cycle. We have we have an order of magnitude left to the upside. Is there a better trade that you know of? There's not one that I know that's better. And I have to say, like, listen, what are you going to do when Bitcoin's trading at 80,000 and there's still a 2x from there in a matter of months? Probably way more than that. Let's take a look at the Australian dollar, US dollar. So look right over there. That's what you're looking at. That's what you see, right? That's Australian dollar pulling back into that local support. By the way, I've mentioned the Japanese yen that I've been trading against, and also the Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar. Those are the ones that really have been leaning into the most, right? Here you have the Australian dollar, US dollar. You have that first pullback into local support, right? Is this the place you want to be looking to attack? I mean, listen, this trade is live for tonight. You could, if anyone had this green flag for tonight, I get it. I see it. You have to wait what happens though. There's no entry to be had right now at this time of day. By the way, just PS, the last 2 hours of the New York session are completely live and valid. You could be trading those, looking for entries. I don't, just to sustain my quality of life. There's very few trades that trigger overall during that time slot. It's not worth it to me. So it's easier just to avoid it. But if you do, anytime you get a trigger during those time of day, those are good triggers. Could that happen later today? No, I wouldn't take an entry this high up here, right? So you're looking then what happens tonight, into London tomorrow. Is that a trade you could be watching? Yeah, that's a good one. Would I prefer not, yeah, I'm not interested in it. If you are, and listen, there have been months when some of you have outperformed me, so and also not only that, going back to back into April, right? Australian dollar, Japanese yen, New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen. I was still selling resistance, all the way through at the end of April. It wasn't until May that I started buying off support. And a lot of you in this area were buying off support well ahead of me. But I stick to my things that I'll never break. And I couldn't yet figure out, to me, that was still, look at that. That's a downtrend, right? I was still selling resistance. So being on the right side of the market, Kenneth, that is, being on the right side of this is such good. I pointed that out on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen over here back in April. So being on the right side of the market is finding out what the greater trend in place is, right? And be trading in that direction. You're looking to take the sweet spot of the trade of the trend. You're not looking to catch the bottom. You're not looking to catch the top, right? So it took me, this was the most difficult point of, by the way, also on the S&P 500, April. In April, and I said it, if you go back and you look in the videos on the S&P 500 back in April, I was like, I don't know what happens from here. We could go back down to 2,300, or we could go back up towards, we could even go towards 4,100. And this was the most difficult time to trade over here. It's not always easy, right? But being on the right side of the trade means, for example, on Bitcoin, we're in a bull market phase. I want to be bullish on Bitcoin. I want to be trading only in the direction of the trade. Right now, that's been for me against the Japanese yen. It's been with the commodity currencies. Being on the right side of the trade is knowing the direction of the market and trading in that direction. Swiss franc, Australian dollar. I don't have that one on my chart list, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. Let's take a look at it. All right, so if I'm looking at a chart for the first time, the first thing I want to do is get that bigger picture, right? Is that in an uptrend or a downtrend? I mean, wow, 2020. But yes, so this is in some of our best trades during the crisis only, where, against the commodity currencies towards the direction of the Swiss franc, right? Do I have that correct or wrong? Sorry about that. That's why the Swiss franc Australian dollar was flip-flopped, and I was like, what? I don't even have that. What is that? Australian dollar to Swiss franc. I had this on my watch list as soon as yesterday as we were trading above this bare area of resistance. Right now, as we're up here, I'm not looking for an actionable signal over here as price is right here testing that all-time high into that resistance. I could also add a little bit of like a trend line over there and kind of, see that we're kind of into that resistance over there. This is not something I'm looking for to enter right now. The last pullback, see this line over here when this was resistance, broke above it, never got the retest, right? You can see over here, oh, there's a retest. That could have been an entry right over there. You would have definitely been stopped out, right? Broke above again, retest never happened. Here's a break again, the retest resumption, and then another one into the support again and a resumption out. Those are the three. This one would have been a stop loss. These are the three trades I would have been looking for. And then also this one over here as price started resuming up, making the next leg up, that pullback into that local support. Up here though, I'm not looking for an entry right now on that pair. Oh, so China's been selling their treasuries for a while. All that means to me long term is that the Fed is going to be the one that's going to have to monetize the treasuries. So I don't, if you're talking about treasuries, what you're seeing today, yesterday, in my opinion, is noise, and that QE is ultra deflationary for treasuries. But treasuries are also kind of like the equity markets right now. Even less so. They're just not attractive right now. So always US dollar, Japanese yen, and or any pair whatsoever. Always, never, ever on the hourly, never on the 4 hour, only on the 8 hour. The only time that you want to move time frames is if you're looking to add in support and resistance and you have an easier time frame doing it off the daily. So you can see right now, if we've come in and we've tested that resistance, right? So what I'm thinking now is, you notice that I green flagged that as we came into that resistance, but that's not my entry. That's not my entry. My entry is only when and if price makes a lower low than the previous price bar during the London session. Tom, thank you, Tom. I cannot tell you how grateful I am. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But again, and I had to just recalibrate our focus today on Bitcoin as we're seeing price go up on what seems vertically, and just to understand. The worst thing you could do is be left behind. So Flo, I'm not sure if you saw when we just looked at the Australian dollar, US dollar. So if you're new, the main thing that I want you to focus in on is number one, you're only looking to take trades off the 8-hour time frame during the London session. An actionable signal when looking to buy is a higher high than the Asian session bar, right? So just I know we looked at it since you've asked the question. 7698. Yeah, that's good support, by the way. So interesting. All right. Let's see how I articulate this, and I don't know if I articulate it well or not. So I'm going to try my best. I don't want to throw anyone off. In a healthy market, right? You see, this was where price peaked out to. Look, come over here. Price peaked out over to here, backed off. So that's like where the market just resisted off of. That's like very light local resistance, right? And then you had another touch into it. So once you broke above it, that then becomes local resistance. If price only comes back and that local resistance holds as support, that's a very healthy bullish sign. Okay, you're wondering whether or not it should be down over here. So I guess just to keep things simple, no, I'm looking up here. I'm always looking up here where the resistance was to then be flipped into support. Now, if price were to come down over to here where you're talking about, I would think that actually price would come down and be looking for that next bit of resistance, which was you already see flip the support. I would be focused a little bit lower. I hope you're able to take what I just told you, which was not presented or articulated well, and to be able to translate that into understanding clearly what I'm saying. And if not, this was shared at what time? At the 104 mark. Go back and just watch that a couple of times. You want to clean that up though. Yeah, this is very black and white. Listen, this can't be any more clearer, and I just want to make it very clear. The only time you are taking any entry is during the London session. That includes the New York overlap, but when London is open. That is the only time, and on the 8-hour. So if on the US dollar, Japanese yen, and I should have the chart up as I talk about it with you, because all of us, myself included, definitely learn better visually. But right now, as you're saying, okay, this is green lighted because this is perhaps in play. Maybe by the Asian session, we've taken out this resistance or trading higher, right? Never got a signal. That could happen. Or maybe during the Asian session, we're still trading under the support, but in London, we make a higher high and never get an entry signal. The only way we get an entry signal is if by London, you're still trading underneath this resistance. This is my Asian bar, okay? That's my Asia bar. And then you take out that low during London. That's the only way that you look to enter that trade right now, right? Now, is it possible during Asia or New York here you spike up and that's a wick into Asia and then the Asian low was down over here? Would you still look to enter that trade on the lower low? Yes. For the support or resistance to be broken, it has to be done on the close. You could look at the daily time frame to make sure if you wick above or below that look over here. This is a perfect example. Right over here, if this was an Asian candle that wicked above that support and then closed here, the entry is still right there during the low of the Asian session. Yeah, I mean, I personally do, but that's something that you want to discuss with your tax advisor. I am not a tax advisor. Cedric, Tom has been working on this massive project of going through all the past training sessions on the Conquering the Market playlist. And he's been working out organizing them into clips, for example, on stop losses, on position size, on entries, on managing a trade, and just going ahead and organizing the timestamps of the clips. so that we'll all have a library where if you wanted to focus in on, managing a trade, you could click on managing a trade and then see all the video clips that discuss that. Nevertheless, do not be lazy. You have access to all of these live training sessions. If you've seen through this one, they're all provide really, really, really helpful, useful information. How long do I usually hold a trade open? It definitely varies depending on what the market's doing, right? It definitely, but I can say, Ethan, it's not so much time wise. At least, and normally more, at least two resistance or support levels away, looking for at least that third. So rather than putting it on a time, I prefer to tell you through you're looking to push that multiple support or resistance levels. That's crazy, Skates. That's crazy, Skates. But not by much, right, Greg? I guess it would depend what tax bracket you're in, but also do be aware the way that they'll be starting it. I believe the way that it's been proposed, that 40% capital gains will be on those who are making over $1 million or more, right? So I think it would be, it's close by a few percentage points then. Again, I'm not a tax professional. That's maybe not at first. Maybe not at first. Yeah, big shout out to Heath on tradetalk.com. That's what I'm going to do right after this training session. I'm going to put both of Brandon and Heath's YouTube channels on my main channel. So those links could be right off the main channel. Huge milestone over there. I've read the comments. I read the comments regularly. Watched the videos. The work that Heath you are doing is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, I agree. The regular live streams we do day in and day out are invaluable in themselves alone. This is just, a way to push it much further. And also that deeper connection in the community here. That's awesome, brother. I'm sorry, but again, we talked about regret earlier on, and you can't regret that only because it's led you where you are right now, and for whatever reason, that the great algorithm has put us all together. Here we are. So being on the sidelines means that you're not in a position. Nick, by the way, welcome. So glad that you're here with us. Love the avatar here. But being on the sidelines, means that you're not in a position, an active open position. For example, what can we look at? Let's look at gold, for example, right? I feel myself fading a little bit. Let's look at gold. Why we were in this, right? A lot of this area, once we broke below 1914 over here, the support over here, often I kept saying be neutral on gold, be neutral, be on the sidelines. That means if you don't have a long-term position in physical gold itself, if you're looking from the swing trader's perspective, that you just don't have a position at all. You're just waiting from the sidelines. And that's a great position of strength, by the way, if you're trading from the sidelines. Because if you're in a position that you don't belong in, that's a position of weakness, right? That is why, above all, rule number one, or you'll never make it, is always set your stop loss first, base your position size off that stop loss, and never, ever move your stop loss. You have to be very comfortable, right, with taking that stop loss, and it could be 50% of the time. So you have to be very comfortable with not feeling that you're wrong anytime your stop has been hit, but feeling like that is protecting you, because that's what it does. So it depends on what platform you're trading on. Because I trade off of MetaTrader, I'm using only buy and sell stop orders. if you're trading off of Oanda connected to TradingView, which is a much easier and better setup, you're just using limit orders. So it depends on what broker you use and what platform you're using. So no, a question from Lawrence is that when you take out a loan from BlockFi, right? Is the collateral still invested and collecting interest? No, you're not collecting interest on that collateral when you have a loan out on it. That collateral is basically put into I forget the word, when you're it's like a mutual holding. It's a real estate term. I forget it. Nevertheless, there is risk there, though, I suppose, right? That we should take a look at more. Dan Held put out a thread recently that was not only about BlockFi and the interest he's earned off it, but other ways that he's been making money off his owned Bitcoin. And one of the things that he pointed out that I never thought through was that when you take out a loan versus BlockFi and that collateral is out there, well, I guess not when you're taking out the loan. I guess if you're collecting interest on your BlockFi, right? If you don't have a loan on your BlockFi and if they're using that Bitcoin to lend out to others, you then have the risk of that other person does default on it. He showed during the March crisis when Bitcoin went down 60% to 3,800, there was not one loan that was defaulted on, but there is real risk unless you hold the Bitcoin and the keys to your Bitcoin offline. There is always real risk. Be aware of it, and only hold on an exchange what you're comfortable with losing if something were to happen. And that being said, I do hold significant money inside BlockFi. Oh, I think it's so. Let me just go back really quick to see what you were talking about. I don't think you're talking about this chart. I think you're talking about this chart over here. Is that what you're talking about, Igor? I'll have to go back to real time and just wait a minute to see if you're talking right. Escrow. There it is. That's what the word I was looking for. I don't trade commodities. I don't trade commodities, nor have I ever. So I'm not the person to answer that question. But what other chart? This one? Just I'll wait for the confirmation. So, I think just doing some searches on a search engine will help you figure out that really quickly and easily. They've got it out. Okay. All right, I'm gonna make this the last question. By the way, it's been a good session. I'm grateful for it. How far are we in? All right, over an hour, 15 minutes. But I want to talk about this really quick. But before I do, I just want to make sure that there's not any other questions that really need to be answered. Right? That's right. His channel is going to grow, and we're going to help do it also. How long would I recommend paper trading? I would recommend paper trading until and I highly recommend paper trading, and I highly recommend holding yourself accountable to really trading the program here. It's kind of like your only chance. It's really kind of like the markets are extraordinarily difficult. You've been presented with like the dragon scroll, right? So I recommend paper trading, until you know that you're ready to trade live, and you will know that. And generally, for a rule of thumb to give you, that would be at least 3 months of at least a 1% gain while risking 0.5%. By then, you should know what you're ready for and when you're ready for it. Although at that point, you'll be a little bit overconfident, and probably your 4th month will not go so well. But that's life, and that's part of the learning experience. Yeah, Igor, we right now on gold. Let's look at this really quick, and then I want to answer about stop loss on Bitcoin. No, sorry, that's not gold. That's the new gold. So right now, look, someone could have took an entry over here, right, on gold right over here, right? Especially as Bitcoin held that 19.4 level and then made that higher high, right? So that looked like a really good entry. And anyone that took that entry, I think that was a good entry. Now, where the stop loss was, again, it's below the support over here at 1855, and it's also below that trend line over there. So I think it's kind of around 1880, 1882, wherever you decide that you're going to put your stop loss, right? What are you targeting on the upside? Well, you're targeting first, the new all-time high, and then beyond that, right? So this is not really a normal swing trade, and that's because it's not a normal swing trade, is because we're coming out of this massive bull flag in this massive bull market, right? So you're looking for a swing trade entry to turn it into a position trade. Next, what else? What about right now if you didn't take that entry? Well, if you didn't take that entry and you're not yet in the trade, your stop loss is going to be in the same area. However, what you would be looking for now and waiting is for that higher high. So until price makes a higher high than the previous price bar, which right now is up here. Hold on. Right? Which right now is up there. And then if it doesn't trigger, you move it down until you get that trigger. That's how you get into the trade. All right. Now, as far as Bitcoin and a stop loss, a couple of things that need to be said. And I've said it earlier. Do keep in mind, if we keep going up, like if we came up to 100,000 over the next month, right? At that point, I would be like, listen, not only could we have a 30% pullback, we could have a bigger than 30% pullback. If we didn't have a pullback and we came into 160,000, I would then, be looking for a bigger than a 30% pullback in this bull market. Where we are today and right now, I'm only looking for a 30% plus pullback at Bitcoin, right? Where would my stop loss be? Right now with that, if we pulled back 30%, would I have a stop loss in there? Absolutely not. There's no way I would have a stop loss. That, by the way, is taking us into this big area of now support. Look at that. Remember we just wicked down to here last week? A 30% pullback is only taking us back into 27,000. That would probably be, if that occurred, the low, right? Last bull market, we did have a 39% pullback. If you look at where that is right now, that's taking us right over here into 24,000. Again, another big level, but happens also to be, imagine that, the 30% pullback takes us into our trend line, or 40% into the trend line below that. Would that be a stop loss for me? Absolutely not. That's where I would be looking to probably look to add and buy more Bitcoin. I think that if you exited there, you'd be exiting at the low of the pullback. Keep in mind, you're talking to someone who, when the model broke, held through 3,800 Bitcoin less than 12 months ago, right? I just held through a 60% drawdown. I didn't sell at 3,800. My stop loss on Bitcoin is 0, right? So that's my stop loss. I can't tell you where to put your stop loss, but I have to tell you that I don't have a stop loss on Bitcoin. All right, everyone. I'm fading out a little bit. There you go, Kyle's. It's a good entry. I have to. I'm going to call this. It was a great session. I really enjoyed it, and I'm thankful for that. I really enjoyed spending this time with you guys. I like these intimate sessions with you all. But I'm going to throw in some music over here. All right, everyone. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in the morning.